Hi, and welcome to Debt Tale. This is Rebecca Bautista, and today we're going to be talking about budgeting with chronic illness. So the point of this particular series is to talk about different life circumstances that may cause you to have different considerations when you budget. So we're going to be talking about chronic illnesses. Personally, I suffer from migraines and from irritable bowel disease, IBS, IBD. I don't know, it's kind of changed over the years. Too much information? Maybe, but in general, I just wanted you to know I have personal experience in budgeting, considering that I have chronic illnesses, and therefore I too experience a lot of symptoms, etc., and how that has changed how I personally budget over the years. Generally, when you have a chronic illness, two things are true. One, you usually will take more time off because you are sick and need to take time off. And two, your healthcare costs are more expensive. If you take time off and you're not salaried, then you will be having a decrease in income, and then having an increased cost too will mean that your bottom line will generally be lower than someone who doesn't have a chronic illness. So what can someone do to mitigate this? Well, there are four things. There is tracking, saving, price shopping, and then insurance. So let's go over them a little bit better. So now, when I talk about tracking, I don't just mean tracking how you spend your money. I'm talking really about tracking your own symptoms. When you track your symptoms, you can identify potential triggers or patterns, and therefore allow you to better gauge that you may potentially have a flare-up, an episode, etc. Once you find these patterns, like if you have medication and you can preventively start taking that medication, if it is stress related and you have identified stress triggers, then you can go and start adding in activities that will help decrease your stress at that time, or look at work arrangements or delegating some of your tasks, etc., in order to make your life less stressful and therefore less likely to have an episode. Next is savings. And unfortunately, if you are a person who has to take off a lot of time, then you will most likely regularly dip into your savings. In my case, I definitely do. I tend to get migraines when it rains, and in the state of Tennessee, it rains every once in a while. So unfortunately, I will have to take the day off usually about 50% of the time. If my preventative Excedrin doesn't start kicking in and my regular medicine for migraines doesn't kick in, which it does sometimes, then I just take the day off. Now, when you have chronic illnesses, generally I recommend you have a checking buffer on top of your emergency fund savings, and then knowing in advance your healthcare costs, you may want to also have your max out of pocket squirreled away in another savings account in order to make sure that should you have a series of medical complications, you would at least be covered for that calendar year. I know it's really unfortunate when you get sick towards the end of the year and then it rolls over into the new year and then you have to re-meet that cap again and all of that. So generally my paycheck will fund both the checking cushion to always make sure I have extra money in my checking account should my paycheck be low or I had to take days off. I also have an emergency fund, and I also am working on saving that max out of pocket in a health savings account. What I also recommend is that even if you aren't having frequent medical costs, like in my case, I don't have to go get a colonoscopy as frequently as I did prior years, and so I can take money and start putting that away to save up for those big exploratory exams. So I have in my budget like $250 dedicated every month to cover medications, doctor's appointments, etc., just in case we get sick. But if I don't use that money, you can just take it and start putting that towards savings. Another thing is to have your automatic roundups if your bank offers that, and just start getting into the habit. So the third thing is price shopping, which unfortunately means more work for you when you want to start doing it. What I mean by price shopping is, first, if you have health insurance, that you find out the places that are in network, because it's very important if you have insurance to be in network because your costs will be lower. Some health plans have where they will cover like half of the thing if you're out of network, and some are like absolutely that they will cover nothing if you are out of network. So you want to make sure that if you have to have, exams, fees, specialty appointments, that you're going to someplace or to someone that your insurance will happily cover. Another thing is that if you know you have a series of exams, then you can call them up and find out what their costs would be. You can call their finance department Find out what the cost would be with insurance and without insurance. Sometimes if you are barely at your deductible and it's going to take even longer, sometimes just paying out of cash for it is actually cheaper. So you just want to double check and ask about that. Another thing you could do with medication is you can look through GoodRx. Just in case, right there, that's the logo. It's an app that you could download. There's also a website. You could type in your medication and it will tell you within your nearest pharmacies if there are any coupons or discounts, and then you just take it and apply it. Now, note that when you do it that way, you are paying out of pocket. You're not using your health insurance. In my case, a lot of medications that I generally do have to take aren't covered by my insurance anyway, so it's always good to check GoodRx first. There's also Mark Cuban's Cost Plus Drugs company. Check that out. It's online. You can type in your medication there too. You send out your prescription and then they send it to you out of pocket. Generally also tends to be cheaper than getting it at a pharmacy. So last but not least, the fourth thing that you want to consider is insurance. The first thing is that you really need to understand your health insurance plan. So you need to understand what is your deductible amount. You need to understand what is your out-of-pocket amount. You need to understand if you really want the extra credit, what the medical tier for drugs is, so you know how much you'll be paying for a 30-day supply, 90-day supply, etc., as well as what is the price breakdown. If you don't know that information, then you'll have a harder time understanding how you can maximally benefit from using your insurance plan. Not only that, but sometimes insurance plans have discounts for, say, going to the gym. Sometimes there are rebates where if you go to your doctor 3 times a year, or if you do a health survey, they give you extra money. You never know. Just check it out. You can even sometimes get fitness trackers, etc., on discount. But in general, you want to understand those 3 numbers so that way you can pre-plan, especially if you know that a particular year is coming up and you have to do a bunch of extra exams. Also note that even if you have an employer sponsored plan, so you get your health insurance through work and they pay for some of your premium, that every year your plan may change. And so you want to make sure that you are keeping on top of that and are paying attention, along with the changes in terms of how much you will be paying to see the doctor versus a specialist versus urgent care. You also want to be paying attention to the network, because sometimes doctors can be in and out of network, and so a doctor you previously used to see may no longer be part of the network. Other things to consider is whether or not you want to have supplemental insurances. So that's like short-term disability, if you want accident policy, if you want cancer policies, etc. These are things that you can buy separate from your health insurance plan, and these are additional insurances should you need them. In my case, for my family, we have short-term disability and we also have accident policies, because kids, they can just get hurt, and having some money back when they get hurt is nice. For me in particular, I also on myself have a cancer policy, just because I have had colon issues since I was a teenager and my family has a strong history of colon cancer, and it would be really nice that once I finally catch it, because odds are I will probably have it, that I will be getting money to cover the costs of that type of treatment. So another thing is, if you are considering these supplemental insurances, the sooner you get it, the better. Generally, the healthier and younger you are when you start the policy, the cheaper the premiums are gonna be. In my case, I understand that it's kind of like a trade-off of well, you're paying money per month on these insurances, but what if you don't use them? Well, I've used a short-term disability one a couple of times because I've had kids. Short-term disability will cover labor and delivery. So if you have a vaginal birth, I think it was 6 weeks for some places. And then if you have a C-section, then it's 8 weeks. They pay you a percentage, I think up to 60% of your take-home pay. And so I've used it twice. It's more than paid back what I've paid in premium so far, and probably for the next couple of years. So for me, it's just an extra peace of mind. I hope that this general video about considerations and things that you could do to help mitigate your chronic illness costs was helpful. This should be helpful whether you actually have chronic illnesses already, or if you have a family history of it. There are just things you want to consider should later down the line you end up also getting a diagnosis. Also, let me know if you think a video talking about health insurance and all the different terms and how to read the term sheet would be beneficial. Let me know in the comments below, and I'd be more than happy to make one, because it's a question I get every once in a while, but it's not really a personal finance topic. But if you think it would be helpful, just let me know. Well, that's it. The next video in this series is going to be about budget considerations with kids. Then we'll do pet. And if you have any other ideas, let me know. All right, so until the next one, bye.